China is one of the world's rising stars, but it is also the country of bans. For example, growing plants in the office is banned, growing a beard is banned, even watching Winnie the Pooh is banned, and there are thousands of similar bans. But in my opinion, one of the strangest bans is when an entire culture is banned. Their food, their music, their idols, their dramas, friends, everything you can think of related to Korea has been banned. In fact, even I am banned in China, but not because I talk about K-pop, rather because YouTube itself is banned there. And today we're going to talk about these bans. First, let's go back to the time when it all began. As you know, there has been an endless war between South Korea and North Korea. In 2016, when South Korea learned that North Korea was preparing for nuclear war, it decided to protect itself by purchasing a missile defense system from the United States. The real purpose here was to defend itself from North Korea. However, the radar of this system also had the capacity to monitor China's military movements. Because of that, China said, "Wait a minute, this is a threat to my security. Are you going to leak my military actions to other countries? Get this out of here." When South Korea said there was nothing they could do, China became very angry and played its biggest card. It threatened economically. So, friends, where does South Korea earn the most money in the world? By selling its music and dramas everywhere. And China knew this, so it cut off all revenue coming from there. This is how the ban on Korean dramas in China, the prohibition of K-pop groups from holding concerts in China, and even the cancellation of some brand collaborations happened as a result of this incident. If any other country banned Korea, it wouldn't be a big deal. But being banned in a country that has almost half of the world's population is not something pleasant for South Korea. Up until then, Korean entertainment companies were investing heavily in China and making a lot of profit thanks to its population. On top of that, Chinese youth admired Korea greatly, which was an unsettling picture for Chinese authorities. With China banning everything related to Korea, the rising Korean wave in China suddenly came to a halt. But this didn't only harm Korea, it also harmed Chinese fans. Because they couldn't access the content they loved anymore, they couldn't attend idol concerts, they couldn't watch the dramas. So in fact, these bans created a loss for both sides. During this period, Korean companies had to come up with new strategies. Groups like BTS and BLACKPINK, which were originally targeting the Chinese market, shifted their focus to the US and Europe in order to make up for the loss caused by these bans. And they were successful too. Today, many K-pop groups have secured a place in the global market rather than just in Asia. In 2021, K-pop culture had taken over the entire world, including China. Even though the bans were still in place, fans kept finding different ways to watch and follow K-pop. Seeing this crazy surge in fan enthusiasm, the Chinese government launched a campaign specifically targeting fan culture. In other words, I can say that being a fan was in a way banned. China's biggest social media platform, Weibo, shut down hundreds of fan accounts. Another fan club had to pay a massive fine just because of a project they were planning to support their group. Let me give you an example of how extreme Chinese fans could be. For BTS member Jimin's birthday, fans tried to raise money to rent a giant airplane and plaster his face on it. And guess what? They actually did it. When I first heard how much they raised, I was shocked. And I'm sure you'll be surprised too. In just 3 minutes, yes, 3 minutes, they raised around $156,000. And within just 1 hour, that amount reached approximately $346,000. Honestly, these numbers alone show you how important China is for K-pop. Yes, fans managed to collect that money, but once this campaign went viral on social media, the Chinese government intervened and immediately shut down those accounts. By 2024, the ice between the Chinese government and the South Korean government had slowly started to melt. In fact, just a few months ago, news spread everywhere that a K-pop group would be holding the first K-pop concert in China in 9 years. Originally, EPEX was supposed to hold a concert in China on May 31st, but unfortunately it was cancelled at the last minute. So we can say that China hasn't exactly let its guard down yet. Meanwhile, during these years, China introduced a rather ridiculous ban. Male K-pop idols were banned in the country. The reason for this ban is something I'll explain later in the video, and I'm sure just like me, you'll end up having a mini meltdown when you hear it. So, with all these bans from China, and the two countries practically drawing swords against each other, what did the Chinese K-pop idols do? Well, this is actually a whole different story. In fact, the entry of Chinese idols into the K-pop scene began back in 2005 when Han Geng joined Super Junior. From that starting point, many Chinese idols began participating in auditions held by major South Korean companies in the late 2000s. Giants like SM, JYP, and YG discovered talented young people by organizing competitions in China. The reason why companies included Chinese members in their groups was highly strategic. After all, China is the most populous country in the world. By adding Chinese idols to the groups, companies made emotional moves that allowed Chinese fans to connect more deeply with the group, while also ensuring huge growth thanks to the market's potential. Take EXO for example. Debuting in 2012, the group had both Korean and Chinese members. Lay, Chris, Luhan, and Tao were the shining Chinese stars of the group. EXO-M was even created as a sub-unit specifically targeting the Chinese market. But when 3 of those members left Korea and returned to China between 2014 and 2015, it became a turning point. Those departures weren't just about disagreements with companies, but also because of the irresistible appeal of the Chinese market. And it wasn't just EXO members, several other Chinese idols also ended up returning to their home country. So why do Chinese idols return home after rising to fame in Korea? First reason, market size. Compared to Korea's 51 million people, China's 1.4 billion population is like a gold mine for brands. A single ad deal in China can earn an idol more than their annual income in Korea. Second reason, accessibility. The Chinese government doesn't allow Korean groups to hold events, but Chinese artists can freely perform in their home country and the state even supports them. Third reason, the political climate. Nationalism in China is very strong. When an idol returns home and contributes to the country, that wave of nationalism makes them shine even brighter. All these factors shape the career choices of Chinese idols. For example, after leaving EXO, Luhan became extremely popular in China, becoming one of the country's top earning idols. His albums sold millions. He starred in dramas and appeared as a judge on TV shows. Chris Wu also rose quickly in China, but his career ended when he was arrested and imprisoned on sexual assault charges. Victoria Song, leader of FX, shined as an idol in Korea, but her real breakthrough came after she returned to China. She focused on acting, took lead roles in popular dramas, and worked as a host and judge on TV programs. Today, she's better known and loved in China than in Korea. Jackson Wang, originally from Hong Kong, didn't leave GOT7, but he greatly expanded his career in China. He founded his own agency, Team Wang, performed worldwide concerts, and is now one of the most sought-after faces by global brands in the 1.4 billion strong Chinese market. The 8 and Jun from 17 managed to balance both worlds while staying active in Korea as group members. They also carried out solo projects in China, leaving their own mark there. This dual career model has become a guiding path for the new generation of Chinese idols. Kyul Kyung, who was a member of Pristin and also part of IOI, was quite popular in Korea, but after her group disbanded, she shifted her focus to China. There, she built a career in acting and solo music, becoming a much more visible name. Later on, she even made a re-debut in Korea. WJSN also had several Chinese members, and one of them, Chung Xiao, followed a similar path. After being active in Korea, she transitioned into acting in China, gaining popularity through Chinese dramas and variety shows. All these examples show that for Chinese and Hong Kong idols, there are multiple career options. Some shine in Korea and then return to China, some remain active in both Korea and China, and others, like aespa's Ningning, continue their careers solely within the group they belong to. But these departures were not always welcomed. Especially in Korea, many fans saw such decisions as betrayal. Some would say, they became famous here and then they abandoned us. On the other hand, Chinese fans felt the complete opposite, a sense of pride. Our idol has come back home, they said. So, an idol's career choices often sparked emotional conflicts between fandoms in both countries. Meanwhile, around 2021, China had a very peculiar policy that I'll wrap up this video with because honestly, it was really absurd. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, during these years, the relationship between China and South Korea had started to improve and China China had slowly begun lifting some bans. But while easing some restrictions, they also introduced ridiculous demands, particularly targeting male K-pop idols. Chinese authorities banned male idols from dyeing their hair, wearing makeup, and even wearing earrings. Back then, Chinese news outlets used extremely harsh terms about male idols, saying they were outside the norm of manhood in the country and expressing fears that young Chinese men might imitate them. I mean, excuse me, but people don't have to live within the molds you want them to. Anyone should be able to live however they want, dress however they like. No one has the right to restrict someone else's freedom. Of course, the bans between Korea and China don't stop here, but I'll tell you about the others in another video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again in another video, take good care of yourselves. Goodbye.